I feel so bad for her. She sent me a meme and it was two apes or something. Like the kid ape was up in her face and it was like that one kid that always wants to test your gangster. And then she was like, how are you feeling today? I forgot about yesterday, my bad. Yeah, me and my mommy have been talking a lot more. I'm supposed to be visiting back home very soon. I haven't been home in 3 years, so that's new and exciting and scary. I'm nervous. I don't know how to explain my now situation without having to go back a little bit. I was kicked out at 17 and I came to LA. But before that, I grew up in a very abusive and toxic household. You guys witnessed a lot of that while I was growing up, depending on when you came in here. I've been doing social media since I was 15. I'm 20. The normal I grew up with was my parents like fighting every single weekend, to the point where like chairs were being thrown. I would hear them get into physical altercations. Our neighbors would call the police. Like that was my normal. That's what I'm used to being raised around. That's how my parents grew up too. Like my parents didn't grow up in the most ideal situations as well. My mom grew up in a very toxic environment. Like my grandma would kick her out and call the police on her because my grandma had mental issues. My mom also had a kid very, very young. She got pregnant at 17 and had a kid at 18 with a older man, to say the least. She's been trapped in these cycles of abuse. She had my brother very young, and then she had me at like 22, and then my sister at 23. I'm 20. I can't imagine like having a kid right now. Like that's insane. Like my mom had kids very, very young, and they were both with like very toxic and abusive people. And that's because my mom grew up in a very toxic and abusive environment. My grandfather is an alcoholic, so she was raised around that as well, and very interesting settings where he would like try to kill her when he was drunk. That was my mom's normal. So when you get stuck in these cycles of abuse, it's so hard to get out. And personally, I've experienced this myself. My last relationship was very abusive, and I'll talk about that in another video. I was raised by abusers. My dad is a very aggressive, abusive person, a manipulator. I am drawn to that. My entire life, I like chase my dad's validation. I'm chasing the validation of men because he doesn't give it to me, or chasing some sort of feeling. So I do that a lot with men, and then I catch myself in relationships with men where I'm like chasing their validation and acceptance, and they play this little push and pull game where they don't give it to you, but they give it to you sometimes. And then it's like, it's literally a game. And it's because my mind is comfortable with the game. My mind understands the game. And as toxic as the game is, that's all I know. My mom's comfort is these toxic people because that's all she was raised around. That's the love she accepts. That's what she thinks love is. Same with me. I put myself in abusive situations because I can handle that, because my mind is conditioned to withstand that stuff. Like when I broke up with my last partner, it literally wasn't even because of the abuse I was experiencing. It was because of a completely different situation. But when I got out of that situation and I started realizing, I'm like, this motherfucker was literally putting their hands on me and doing crazy stuff. But that wasn't my tipping point, because my entire life I've had hands put on me from the people that I love and from the people that are supposed to love me. So that's what I feel like is normal, is people that put hands on me. And I'm okay with that, which I should not be okay with, and I'm not okay with now. But it takes a long time to unlearn these things and understand that you are worthy and you don't deserve to be treated that way. You deserve to be treated with respect, kindness, and putting hands on people is not okay in any way, shape, or form. With that being said, my mom got trapped in these cycles of abuse. And, she had her first baby daddy, which is my brother's dad. While he was in jail, she met my dad. And my dad is a very interesting human, to say the least. And honestly, it really hurts me to understand the type of person my dad is, because my entire life, my dad has really been my rock and been my person. Like, I'm a daddy's girl. But to really sit down and understand the type of manipulative tactics and behaviors that he does really breaks my heart, because it's really sad and disappointing. But again, the way my dad grew up wasn't the best either. My grandma had him very young with my grandfather. My grandfather isn't a very good person. The way he treated my grandma in front of my dad was very, very disgusting. And my grandma has been sent to the hospital because of the situation my grandfather put her in or did to her. And my dad had to watch that grow up. So my dad grew up in a home of violence, and that was his normal. So watching a man be violent to a woman is my dad's normal, and he has some unhealed issues there that he doesn't get help for and denies and whatever. And here's the other crazy part. Because of the abuse that our parents inflict on us isn't as violent, aggressive, or intense as the abuse they experienced growing up, they feel like it is an abuse. Like my dad, he would tell me stories where like my great grandfather was blind. When he would punish the kids, he would like close their hair in the door and get a big old knife to spank them with, because the kids couldn't move if he was hitting them with a knife, because if they moved, that he would cut them. So like that's the type of punishments my dad grew up with. Crazy things there, but like that isn't as bad as the shit that he went through, so he doesn't consider that abuse. Every time I bring it up to him, he's like, that's not abuse, you should have seen what I went through when I was a kid. And I'm just like, it still is. It still is. My dad's just a very aggressive person. It's like not 100% his fault. You aren't just born aggressive, you're taught these things, but it's your responsibility to unlearn these things. My dad's like fucking 46 or something, it's your responsibility to be better and unlearn these behaviors because they're not acceptable. With narcissists, they genuinely don't think there's anything wrong or they're doing anything wrong, so they don't change and they can't see past that. And narcissism is a mental illness, it's a mental health issue. So it's really hard to just be around him when nothing he thinks he does is wrong. It's hard to be around people like that. I feared my parents. I also have a really high pain tolerance, and that's why when I'm going through things, I do things like get a bunch of tattoos, get piercings, or do stuff that is supposed to be painful because I can't feel it. I have like a really interesting relationship with pain because of the abuse I went through, and I feel like a lot of people experience this type of thing. Like talking about this with a friend, and how anytime I go through painful situations, like let's say my period, anytime I'm on my period, or anytime I'm sick, or anytime I'm in abusive situations, I stay and I accept those pains, and I don't take medications, and I don't try to help it because I feel like I deserve it. I feel like it's my karma to be in pain and to be suffering. And my friend said it was like a PTSD thing, and he explained it to me, and I was like, oh, not only that, like I like to be in pain sometimes, like when I'm doing the nasty and stuff. Like I like to be hit, I like to be choked, I like to be slapped. And why do I like those things? I have to like dig deep inside me to be like, this roots from this. I shouldn't like these things, but I like these things because of that. It's like a release almost. Or like when I self-harm, I don't self-harm because I feel like I deserve to hurt or I want to hurt. I self-harm as a form of release. I get so overwhelmed and I don't know what to do with my body, and it's so intense. Like I self-harm. I hit myself repeatedly, or I like cut myself because it's like releasing. And it's crazy because it doesn't hurt. Like I don't really feel pain. It just feels like a release. And it's crazy how growing up with an abuse ties into all of those things. As I was growing up with that, my dad was also like a very strict, like heavy surveillance type of person. We had cameras everywhere. We had a lot of parental controls on our phone. They would always go through our phones. And when I started doing social media and started like popping off doing social media, it became like very dictating and controlling because my dad cares a lot about image. A lot of abusers and people like this project such a perfect image out to everybody. This is why it's hard when victims come forward to say anything. When I came forward with the abuse that I was experiencing last year, a lot of people did not believe me and would not accept the words that I was saying, because my abuser comes off as this very, very nice, genuine, happy person. And they are that, but they also have another side to them that people haven't gotten close enough to see. I sadly did get to experience that side of that person. That doesn't mean there's not like a happy fun. It just means they also have another side to them that you may not know about. My dad was obsessed with his image. House always clean and perfect. Kids always straightforward and perfect. Couldn't dress a certain way, couldn't cut our hair, couldn't dye our hair, couldn't do anything, couldn't wear makeup. He wanted a very specific image. And then when it came to my social media, he was very controlling about what I was allowed and not allowed to post. And I understand that I was young and I was a kid, but they didn't monitor or care as much about my siblings' media ever. Like they weren't checking my brother's stuff and what he was posting on his private accounts. They weren't checking my sister and what she was doing online. They were only concerned with me because now I have a platform and people that they know can see what I'm doing, and they don't want me to be an embarrassment. My dad would heavily monitor what I was posting, what I would do when I would go live, all the friends that I had on the media. Like I didn't follow a lot of people on social media for like a really long time for mental reasons. I would follow like these people who were like my friends, my online friends. Like I was 15 on the internet, you had online friends. That's how I grew up. He would follow all of them and keep up with them too. So one of my friends who I used to watch when I was younger, one of my closest friends, my dad also would watch her. And now when me and her became friends and like she came over, he was like also nervous to meet her because he watched her. And it was always like, that stuff is kind of odd to me. Like, you're a grown-ass man and you're very heavily invested in your child's online social life with people she doesn't even know. You know what I mean? Like, it was very, very interesting. My dad wanted to do the things that I do. My dad wanted to be a star, be a comedian, do social media. His like biggest influence was this guy, this Viner, and his son. And it's so fun. I can't even talk about this. I'm gonna talk about this later. But this Viner and his son, my dad would try to get me and him to recreate those videos and like do similar type of style of content as these people. He just never went anywhere with it because he had kids and a family and he didn't have time for that stuff. And I started doing it. My dad went immediately into like management mode, like overly management. Like, he had this whole idea and plan for me, and it didn't really resonate with who I was as a person. So I always was very pushy. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Also, when I started doing social media, because I was doing hair tutorials on Instagram when I was like 15 turning 16, or I had just turned 16, I started doing hair tutorials on Instagram. And because my whole platform is based on hair product and accessories, my dad wanted to do drop shipping and create a hair product and just drop ship a hair product and just slap my name on it. And I'm not really the type of person to do that. I was a kid. I didn't really care about money like that. And I also didn't want to do anything that wasn't authentic. Like, I didn't want to just slap my name on anything. Like, if I was going to make something, it was going to be a quality product that I knew worked. Like, I wasn't trying to scam people, and I definitely wasn't interested in drop shipping. The second I started doing media stuff, my dad instantly went to dollar signs and started seeing me as money versus a person. And this gets a lot more hectic later in life. As of right now, he would just suggest ideas to me and I would just kind of turn them down. And he's like, no, it's okay. Like, I'll just do everything. All you have to do is promote it. Like, the same way you promote those brands on your Instagram, you can just promote these products and we'll make so much money. And I just didn't really care about those things at the time, so I always turned them down. I dropped out of high school after my first semester of sophomore year. I didn't finish my first semester. I was going through a lot of mental health issues. I was switching my medications a lot. I was also being harassed at school on top of the fact that I was being abused at home. I was in a relationship with this boy. Me and him were friends. We've been long-term friends. Like, our families have known each other. Like, we've known each other since like kindergarten. So my freshman year, he starts dating this girl who hated me, but me and him were friends, so he stops talking to me. And then the following year, me and him started dating. When me and him started dating, like, she already would bully me in school, but she went into full-blown harassment, threats. Like, I was dead-ass scared to go to school. Like, I wasn't trying to deal with that. Like, she would shoulder check me in the hallways. She would, like, yell at me in the hallways and talk shit and just do, like, the absolute most because I was dating her ex. Again, she already had not liked me and was already bullying me before they were dating. So the fact that I ended up dating him just made it so much worse, and I really got sick of it. Like, she would threaten me over the phone. She would constantly tell me if I showed up to school, she was gonna beat me up the first thing she saw me. At some point, I got really fed up with her, like, threatening me, and I end up threatening her. And I was like, yo, like, try me, like, let's go, like, bet you want to beat me up? Like, girl, I'm really tired of this shit. Like, what is your point? She screenshots all of that and goes to the principal's office. Like, after a month of me being harassed, I say one thing back and she goes and cries about it to the principal, and then I get in trouble. After I get in trouble, I think I just got tired of everything, and me and the boy ended up breaking up. And then I had no reason to be at school, and I'd already been begging my parents to put me in online school. So I had sparked the joint up in the locker room and just started walking in the hallways. And I was like, I'm about to get caught. I don't really care. I want to get caught because I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I want to get suspended. So I got suspended. I told my parents that I, like, begged them. I really did beg them to not make me go back. And I had been crying to them for, like, the last month, like, asking them not to send me to that school because I was so tired of it. Like, it was so exhausting. So I told them if they didn't enroll me in online school to take me out of school, like, I was going to go back and do something 10 times worse and get expelled. So they took me out and I started doing online school. And I did online school for a while. I ended up just stopping for some reason. And then COVID happened. So when COVID happened, everybody was home. It wasn't just me. Like, I was rocking with the online school shit for a while because I was just home alone and I was able to do school super fast and everything was cool. And then everybody was home. And that's when it started getting hectic because we're a family of 5. I have my mom, my dad, and my 2 siblings. It was just a lot, all of us on top of each other. We didn't have space. And because of me starting online school, I started a TikTok. I was posting my uncensored content because when you're in school, you can cuss, you can have fun, you can do whatever you want. But when you get home, you gotta censor yourself. You can't be doing all that. We're kids. TikTok was like my way to like express myself since I didn't have school anymore and I felt very like trapped in my body. And my dad found that shit in like 6 days. I didn't even last, and then I got grounded. But then I started adjusting my content, started making more relatable content. And then I started posting my art on TikTok during quarantine. So guys, I've always made art, which is insane. Like I've always just made art, but before like I did art on social media, I was doing hair tutorials, makeup videos, and just relatable content. I had no idea that I could sell my art and make money off art. I didn't know people could do that. My parents didn't teach me that I could do that. Like nobody told me that like I could be an artist. When I started posting my painting videos, my wall videos, and just all that content, and it started doing good, people were like, sell your art. Dad was telling me to sell my art because he saw how good my videos were doing, and it took me a while to get started because I was like, I don't really want to do that. Like I just want to do this for fun. And he was like, no, like you should sell your art. And everybody kept telling me to sell it, and I was like, okay, Dad, like let's do this. This is where my dad starts micromanaging my business. Remember I told you like he started seeing me only as a dollar sign when I started doing hair tutorials and just kept offering and telling me to do all these different things, and I was just like not with it. So now I let him have some control, and I was like, let's do this. And he's like, okay, bet, like I'm gonna build the website, I'm gonna figure all this out, like everything's gonna be fine, you don't gotta worry about a thing. And I was like, okay, bet, Dad, cool. And you're supposed to be able to trust your parents. You're supposed to be able to really think and believe that your parents are going to do right by you and care about you and not screw you over for their benefit. Now, I just this last year have found out a number of things that were going on during this time period when I was 16, 17. It's really sad to me. Basically, I started my business and I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know any of the money stuff that was going on. I simply would just make content, make the art, send pictures of the art to my dad. He would order the posters, put it on the website, and do all of that stuff. I knew nothing. He did this on purpose so I wouldn't know how to do it, and I had to rely on him. I would ask him all the time how to do these things. He'd be like, yeah, I'll teach you. And then he would never teach me, or he would just do it himself. He wanted control over these things. I was getting like 200 orders a day at one point, and I could see the money on my Shopify, how much money I would make a month, but I couldn't see that money. I didn't have access to any of the bank accounts, and they were my bank accounts. They were my bank accounts with my name on it. My dad changed the passwords, and I didn't have the passwords to it, so I didn't know how much money was in it. I didn't know how much money was going out of it. I would just see the Shopify numbers, but I didn't know what that meant. I was a kid. I had no concept of money. I would spend some of the money. Didn't spend all of it. I will say that right now. With the amount of money that was coming in and out, I did not see a lot of that money. When I wanted to buy things, I would literally send a screenshot of my Amazon cart to my dad and be like, yo, can I get this right now? He would tell me yes or no, and I would do it. My dad ended up spending a lot of that money without my permission because he felt very entitled to it. It's very disappointing. And there's a lot of other stuff that have been going on in regards to that I'll speak on at another time in a different video. But my dad was taking my money, micromanaging it. My LLC is in his name, so he's the primary owner of my LLC, and I'm under it because I was a minor. And legally, when you own a business with your kid and they're a minor and it's primarily their business, child freaking stars and stuff, you're supposed to put all this money into a type of account, and then when they're 18 they get this money. My dad didn't do that, so I didn't have access to any of my money until a month after living in LA when I was kicked out at 17. So my dad was using all that money and spending all that money, and I had no idea. My mom knew, and she thought I knew. Crazy too, because I remember my dad going on shopping sprees more often. I didn't think anything of it because I thought since we were in COVID, my parents just had extra money because they weren't commuting to work or doing extra. Do you know what I'm saying? I just thought we had a little bit of extra money because we were just in the house all the time. It's not what was going on. It's not like my parents were in a hard place and they needed that money. It was my parents both have great paying jobs. They both have money. It took them a while to get there. But at this point, I grew up nice. I had nice things. My parents provided for us. So my dad was just being greedy, which is not cute at all. So that was going on from 16 to 17. Was him taking my money and stuff, and I had no idea. On my 17th birthday, me and him went snowboarding by ourselves, and I had started telling him a lot of the things that were going on with my mom and the way that she abused me that he did not know about, which he did, and it was kind of stupid the way he said that. And so at that moment, he had told me, I'm gonna get you out of this house. You can't live here anymore, and I'm gonna leave her when Amira turns 18. When I got kicked out, it was really like a manipulative tactic. Like, my dad made it seem like it was my mom's idea to get rid of me. His plot was like, I'm gonna convince her that you're the problem in our marriage, because my entire life, all the arguments that my parents had were how to raise me. Growing up, listening to your parents argue about you since you were in like 3rd grade makes you hate yourself, like, to say the least. Like, that really effed up my brain for like a long time, and it still kind of does. My dad was like, well, let's just get rid of her. I'm gonna send her to LA and everything's gonna be fine. Nothing was fine. But he convinced my mom to kick me out, and it took him a little while, but it really sucked. Like, internally really hurt me, like, hearing some of the conversations and the manipulative tactics he would use on my mom, because hearing him say those things about me, knowing they weren't true, but knowing that's how he was like trying to get rid of me, like, really hurt my feelings. Like, really bad. But that's not the point. Point is, my dad manipulated my mom into kicking me out, trying to convince her that it was her idea. And I remember the day my mom really like was like, you are leaving and you're not being here anymore, like, get out of my house. It was this day where I posted these pictures that she didn't like, and were yelling at me to take them down because she over sexualized me too much. And same with my dad, they over sexualized me and my siblings so much, it was actually ridiculous. And I'll talk about that in another video. She made me take these pictures down, and I was arguing with her about it, and I'm like, it's literally nothing, like, why are you freaking out? And then I remember we like got into like a physical altercation. She like spit in my face and was like just telling me like, you aren't welcome here anymore, like, you need to get out of my house. So at that moment was the moment where I was like, I'm moving out. And I started packing my things, but it took 3 months for me to move out because my dad was going to drive me to LA, because I grew up in Oregon. So it was a 16-hour drive. He was going to drive me with all my things, and he was going to stay with me for a month to help me get settled in. Because he was going to stay with me for a month, my mom was scared of him leaving. She kept adding more chores and responsibilities and tasks my dad had to get done before we left. So it took 3 months for me to get out. I don't know if you guys remember, my room was packed up in boxes forever. I was getting so depressed. Like, I was just in my bed eating food. Like, I got kind of thick because I was eating a pint of ice cream every day out of boredom, because all my stuff was packed up, because I was supposed to leave a lot earlier than I was. I remember the day that I was leaving, I heard my parents arguing upstairs, and my mom was just like, I'm so scared, I don't even feel like going to the grocery store without you, like, please don't leave, like, please come back, blah 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 blah. And then she came down. Mind you, my mom didn't talk to me those full 3 months that I was still there. So then she comes down and hugs me. And this is the first time she had spoken to me, and was like, I'm just doing what's best for you. Please, please. And then I moved out and I went to LA, and then I got access to my bank accounts. Like, I was spending my money. I had my cards, but I couldn't like see my bank. So I didn't know how much money I had to spend. I was just spending money. I'm out in LA by myself, and I start just running around being a kid in LA. Started like kind of seeing this girl who was a bit older than me, and she traumatized the crap out of me. And then after that, I got a boyfriend. But I need to do a freaking video on my love life. My love life is so funny. Like, I was talking to one of my mutuals about my love life the other day, and she was like, this sounds like a movie. And I was like, maybe I should like do a story time about my love triangles, because it's been so funny. Yeah, but after that girl, I started dating my first boyfriend, and honestly, like, I love him as a friend because we were friends for like a year before we dated, but I would never. He's so funny because me and him are cool, kind of, I guess. So it's like, I don't know. Love the dude, would never date him again, but appreciate that time in life. Was dating this boy for a while, and while I was dating him, I had turned 18. So I had moved out of my dad's ex-stepdad's house, because I was living with him. And I had moved in with my aunt. But because I was traveling all the time with this boy that I was seeing, I wasn't like at home able to make money. So I started an OnlyFans so that I could have a little bit of extra cash. But I did my OnlyFans for my body art. And again, because I was traveling, I didn't have time to do my body art. So I started posting other content on there. Because I was traveling so much and I'd leave the house a meth and yada, yada, yada. Like, my aunt ended up kicking me out because like I was just going through a lot and was not being considerate. And this was right before me and him broke up. So she kicks me out. I'm like couch surfing with different family members, trying to figure out like, am I gonna go back home? Like, what's going on? Then me and him break up. Now, I'm homeless. I'm 18. I'm going through mental issues. I'm in my first relationship. Me and him break up out of nowhere. I lost my fucking mind. If anybody remembers that time, I went insane. And I ended up in the mental hospital. Like, it was just an interesting time. But I ended up moving back in with my dad's stepdad, Pops. We'll call him Pops. I ended up moving back in with Pops after I had apologized for leaving the way I did because I left pretty disrespectfully. Tried to figure my life out. Then I tried to off myself. Ended up in the hospital. And when I got out of the hospital, that's when I got my life back together. And then my parents got a divorce. My dad ran back out to LA and started attaching himself to me again. And this drove me insane because my dad is a covert narcissist. So when he is in crisis mode, he likes to, the best example I have for this, when he moved out here, he was like, let's take a loan out on the business. Let's open up a laundromat. Let's do this. Let's do that with my money. Let's do all these things. I want to be able to get you a house. Like, you're going to get your first house. Like, I want to, so you can own something and da 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 da. And we can get a duplex and rent out the other side and all these things, right? For me. He wanted to do all these things for me so I could be set up in a proper way, which isn't true because he was doing those things for himself. He was doing those things so I could own something and he could rest his head because I had the funds to be able to do that. I have the platform to be able to do that. I have the bank history to be able to do that, but I would always tell him no because I was not comfortable with those things. I did not want those things with him. I wanted to build my own life separate away from all those things because as much as I love my dad, do not like to be around him. Like, always something rubbed me the wrong way about him and I never really understood what, and it probably was the fucking abuse I went through growing up. Y'all left me out here. Like, I went through so much being alone out in LA. Like, at 17, like, y'all just left me in a new city, gave me to my family members who I barely know, and just put the responsibility of me onto them, and I know nothing. Like, I have been held at knife point, held at gunpoint, I've been raped, I've been in situations that a 17-year-old girl that lived on a farm should not be in. You can't just come back into my life at 18 and try to parent me and be so invested in my life. Like, I have my own life. Like, I remember he moved in to Pop's house after him and my mom got divorced, and like was in a door away from me, and I was just like, bro, why are you, like, I would leave the house and he'd be like, where are you going? What do you mean, where am I going? Mind your business. You literally haven't been in my business the last 2 years of my life. Go away. Can't just like insert yourself into my life again after you have not been in my life. Like, I couldn't even call my dad. Like, when he left to go back to Oregon, I literally did not talk to him ever. He wasn't allowed to talk to me. My mom wouldn't let him talk to me. And anytime I did talk to him, if she walked in the room, he would just hang up on me. He would have to hide to talk to me. That fucked with my head, bro. That shit would make me cry. And I would be in situations where I didn't have any money and I didn't understand. Like, and I was struggling. I was 17, like, and he wouldn't even be allowed to send me money for food or anything. Like, my mom would yell at him for that stuff. And I'm like, I don't know what to do right now. I can't just come back into my life. I ended up working my ass off and moving out and starting my own life away from all that. And he was serial dating people, getting himself into situations and all this crazy stuff. I ended up moving into a house with a lot of lovely women. During this time period, I ended up meeting another boy. It was the relationship that I was in for like the last year. You know, in the beginning it was nice. To say the least, I am my own worst enemy, and I chase toxicity knowing that it's not good for me. And I ruined a lot of relationships in my life trying to pursue this relationship. I ended up being so consumed and invested into this relationship that I screwed up the relationship with my roommates. Was pouring so much of myself, missing rent. I was taking care of this boy. Like, I would spend like $5,000 a month on this boy. I was making like 6 to 8 a month. My rent was $1,000 a month. There's no reason for me to be missing rent. Do you know what I'm saying? I was just so overly invested in this boy that I screwed up a lot of things for myself when I was in a very good place. But that's my own responsibility, and I did that to myself, chasing whatever I was chasing. But also, it was a very abusive relationship. Being with that person was extremely intoxicating, and it's because of what I was used to. I remember before me and him even started dating, I would constantly tell him, like, I was like, I don't want to be my mother. I don't want you to be my father. Like, I don't want to repeat their relationship. And it's so crazy to me that even in the beginning of me seeing him, I would always say that to him, not even realizing that I was really recreating the relationship that I watched growing up. It's crazy how much like my dad he was. It was really sick. Like, it was really sick how much like my dad he was. I was just running around with this boy for a little while. So this is what doesn't make sense to me. So when me and him first started seeing each other, like, he knew what I did for work at the time. He was very aware of it. He told me he never cared. He's like, get your bag, da da da. When we started getting more serious, like, still the same thing. But when we started dating and it was public, that's when he started to care about what I was doing for work, because other people started caring. And since other people cared and other people had opinions on it and would DM him about it, he would care. When we started dating, before we were public about it, I talked to him. I was like, okay, so let's have a conversation about the content that I post, because I want to make sure, like, we're just like, there's boundaries, there's new boundaries, because I'm not personally, like, if I'm in a relationship, there's certain things that I just don't want to do because it's disrespectful, obviously. So there was already things that I had like died down a lot. Like, I used to cam girl, which means like I would go on live stream. So I like stopped doing that months before we got together. And there was just other things that I just wanted to go over with him, and comfortability levels and da da da. And over that, everything was fine. And then out of nowhere, it wasn't fine. And I was in New York for like a week. The week before I had left, I made sure to film a bunch of new content so that when I went to go stay with him for a week, like, I would still be able to make money, because personally, I don't feel comfortable filming content in his house, because that's his space. Like, I'm not going to film content to sell to people in his place, so I wasn't going to do that. He ends up wanting to go through my laptop and see my content, and I at first agreed to this, and then I got very uncomfortable about it, because the way he was talking about it and going about it was very uncomfortable to me, and I felt like I was about to be degraded or like judged, and I didn't want that. I ended up being like, I don't want to do this right now, can we wait? And he was like, no, we're doing this right now. And he like took my laptop, opened it up, and started going through my content. And when he was going through my content, he was making all these faces like he was disgusted at me for what I was doing, when he knew what I did for work, and he knew the type of content we both all agreed on to post. Like, I stopped doing a lot of things, and it was just very, very uncomfortable for me. And when he deleted like a lot of stuff and a lot of my old content that I wasn't using anymore at the time, but like, he deleted a lot of money. And so then I wasn't making any money when I was out there. And I had just moved back in with my dad, because we're going to get into that in a second. I moved out of my old house with my roommates back in, and I got a house with my dad and his new family, and my rent was a lot more. When I moved back in with him, he had said that they weren't making money. He had no money coming in and out, and I had to take care of things. And the rent for the house was like $5,000 a month. I deleted all my new content, deleted a lot of my old content. I didn't have anything to like recycle, and I wasn't making money when I was in New York. So when I got back home, I was super stressed. And then I also wasn't allowed to make a bunch of type of content. Really stressful and overwhelming for me. I ended up going out there for a month. And that's when things got really crazy. And then after I left that situation, I went back home, and I was like going through it a lot. And a month after we broke up, we were still talking, we were still friends, but that's when I came forward with all of the abuse that I was going through. And the only reason why I said anything about the abuse I was going through was because I heard he was doing these things to other women, and it wasn't just me. I was willing to take this stuff to my grave and never speak about it again and just deal with my shit. But he was doing these things to other women, and I was getting a bunch of people texting me. And then also he was serial cheating on me, which I found out, which hurt my feelings like crazy. It's like, what? There was no need for that. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail because I'm going to do a whole separate video on that stuff. But yeah, so then I was going through that breakup, and I was going through the whole internet calling me a liar, and I went crazy again. And on top of that, I had just moved in with my dad again. Now, the way we got this house, I ruined a lot of relationships, and I stopped paying rent. I felt really bad, so I just told them like I was just going to end up going, and I was gonna get a house with my dad, because I had called my dad one day because I was really frustrated about something and I was having an episode, and I was like, I can't live here anymore, like da 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 da. And he was like, well, actually, we're looking for a house right now if you want to blah, 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 blah. Like, I really want to work on a relationship. I just want my daughter back. Okay, that's fine. But I gave him a list of rules and stuff and was like, okay, if I move in with you again, like this, and that. And he was like, that's fine, Talia. Like, I just want my daughter back. Like, I just want you home. It was a 2-hour drive from my old house to my new one. And 20 minutes before we're pulling up to the new crib, he tells me that his unemployment ended. He doesn't have any money coming in. His fiance doesn't have any money coming in because she's still in school and she hasn't started work yet. And they're broke. And he spent all the money on the house taking care of them. Took them on a cruise, did all this crazy stuff. Didn't even give me any money or offer to pay my rent for 1 month, even though I was taking care of him when he first got out of divorce and I paid for all his fucking, his registry for his fucking licenses and all this shit. Didn't want to take care of me in any way. He went and took care of this whole new family. Spent all the money he got from selling the house with my mom on them and was broke. And then looked to me to take care of stuff. Like, I wouldn't have been as stressed out about these things because I make money and I have money, but my ex had deleted all my content and I was only making like $2,000 a month at this point, so I wasn't making the money I used to be making, and so I was like really, really, really stressed. Also, living with my dad and his family was just a lot because, like, I already told him before moving in, I was like, I'm not doing family time. I'm not getting to know these people as a family. I don't like doing family things. Like, me and you can work on our relationship and then whatever happens, but you can't force me to just be a family with your family. Like, me and you have issues we need to work out before I can be all kumbaya with everybody. I liked fiance's kids. Like, me and them would hang out separately. Didn't really get to know his fiance too much, but I also really didn't like her because she was a weird ass bitch, and I'll say that with confidence, and I can go into detail why I don't fuck with that woman. But her and my dad are perfect for each other. So I'm living with them, and it wasn't awful. It was kind of okay, but when the whole thing happened where I was talking about my abuse publicly and it was going viral, he was trying to negotiate with my ex's parents to get money out of them for my silence because they tried to send me money, or they did send me money when me and him broke up. It was like a whole thing. So my dad knew they had money and was trying to get money out of them for my silence and negotiated with them to get me to shut the fuck up about everything, which I thought was disgusting, and it made me really disappointed. When I was trying to talk to my dad about all the stuff that was going on with me when I had first gotten home, he was like, well, Talia, sometimes things just happen, but you can't just go out and start. And I was like, oh. The only reason why you're saying that is because if you have to hold him accountable for the things that he did to me, you have to hold yourself accountable because you have done 10 times worse to me and my mother. You're disgusting and I don't want to talk to you, and I made him get out of my room. The only person that cared about me during that time was my stepsister. I was so depressed. Like, you guys don't understand. Like, I've never been cheated on before, and I loved that boy so much. Like, I did everything for him. Like, I don't think you understand, like, how much I cared for this person. And to put all the energy and do all the things that I was doing for him, to realize that I was just constantly getting disrespected and treated like shit the entire time when all I did was love him, like, really broke me. That shit really made me go crazy. Like, I didn't leave my room for like 4 days at one point. Like, I didn't leave my bed, I didn't go to the bathroom, I wasn't eating. And my stepsister had a key to my room, so she literally would come in there and leave me groceries so I would eat and like check in on me and take care of me. My dad didn't talk to me for like weeks. Like, he would go weeks without even coming by my room to check in on me, knowing I was going through what I was going through. To the point where I literally called my mother, who I hadn't spoken to in 3 years, because I needed somebody to talk to and I needed help. And I didn't know who I could talk to about these things. And that's how I reconnected with my mother, was because of the abuse I was going through, because I know she's been through stuff like that and I just needed somebody to talk to. So thank you to her. So as I'm going through my depression and stuff, I start over-sexualizing myself again like I do. I did the same thing when my last relationship happened, and I was just being a fucking whore online, which was disgusting. Like, it honestly really grosses me out thinking about how insane. Like, I went bad shit crazy this time. Like, it was more silent than last time. Like, it wasn't as much on the internet how crazy I was going, but I was losing my mind. Around Christmas time, my dad had told me, he was like, you can leave whenever you want now, we're good, telling me that they can afford this place on their own and I don't have to live there anymore, because I would constantly express how much I hated living with him. He's a fucking crazy person. And I was like, oh, okay, bet. So I made up a 3-month plan to leave. And I told him, I was like, I'm not going to pay rent for 3 months because I'm going to save up so I can leave because I haven't been able to save since living with you because you're making me pay OD. He was like, okay, that's fine. Agrees to this plan. And then later ends up asking me for rent. And I was like, no, we literally agreed that I wouldn't be paying rent. It's not my fault that you went and spent God knows how much money on expensive ass gifts for your fiance and her 2 kids, didn't get me or my sister anything for Christmas, your biological children, but want to show off for whatever reason. That's not my responsibility. You made an agreement with me. I'm not paying rent. I'm saving up to leave because I do not want to live here anymore. I've already done enough for you. So he ends up taking all of the money out of my account, which he does normally. Well, he had done before in the past, but I expressed to him he's not allowed to do that anymore. And he just takes all my money. And I go crazy. I start texting him like a crazy person. And I start texting his fiance. I'm like, your husband needs to give me my money back. It is not fair that he gets to constantly talk shit about me, degrade me to my family members, and say all these disgusting things about me because he doesn't like the way I make money, but can take it whenever he wants, spend it however he wants. And he's been doing this forever. Literally called the police in, but they couldn't do anything because it's a joint account. It was this whole thing, and he was at work while this was going on, and then he ends up coming home and sits down like the narcissist he is, and he was like, I put your money back, but da-da-da. He's like, you need to be out by the end of this month. And I was like, Bookie, that's not what we agreed on. You can't just give me a month to leave. You're fucking crazy. What he said to me, he's like, I didn't know you were doing OnlyFans. And I was like, you literally filled out my W-9. He was like, you can't be doing that under my roof. I'm like, the roof that I've been paying for? You've known I've been doing OnlyFans since I'm 18. I'm 20. You literally tell me all the time not to talk about it in front of her 13-year-old kid, because why the fuck would I talk about that in front of her 13-year-old? Like, your fiance knows what I do for work. Don't sit here and start lying talking about I didn't know you were doing that. You need to get out of my house. I literally lost my shit. I went apeshit crazy. I have no shame in going apeshit crazy. I started screaming, I started yelling, I started punching walls, and I was like, get the fuck out of my room, get the fuck out of my room, rah, rah, rah. And then I had a month to leave. So I start working on leaving. After like a week goes by, he then says I have a week to leave. And then I start stressing out again. And then he says I have a day to leave. Like, he kept switching up. My dad likes to do that. That's the thing. Like, he knows me, so he knows how to fuck with me. Once I have a plan in my head, I can't and you keep changing that plan, it stresses me out to the point where I like go crazy. So like we would have a plan. I would start moving with this plan. And then he would switch it up and be like, actually, no, you have a week. Actually, no, you have a day to leave. You need to leave right now. And like doing the most. Finally gave me like a day to leave. I was like, I'm not leaving. Like, I'm staying here for a week. You can't make me leave. First of all, legally, I have 30 days to leave. I've been paying rent here. You can't just do that. Then I was like, fine, whatever. I'll fucking leave. But this is my thing. I was like, I will leave if I can come get my stuff, like, at the end of the month. Like, if I can, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go to Oregon. I can get on a flight today if I can get my stuff at the end of the month. He was like, fine, Tali, I don't care. I just want you out of this house. So I book my flight. I go wait at my cousin's. And then while I'm waiting at my cousin's, he texts my uncle saying she needs to have her stuff by the end of the week. It was like a Wednesday. So I was like, there is no point in me flying to Oregon today and wasting money just to fly back on Friday to move my stuff. Like, I had to miss my... Then when Friday came around, he didn't even let me get my stuff. He said I couldn't go there at the house alone. My uncles had to help me. He put this shit on my uncles and was like, you need to come with her and get her things. You guys need to come get her things. Like, and then he wasn't letting me go to the house. He took like 2 days from when he said I can go and get my things, and then finally let me come and get my things. Like, he was holding my things hostage. It was like really ridiculous. Like, I was going through so much, and this was in like February. It was a lot. Like, I was going through a lot at the beginning of this year. I finally get all my things and I put into a storage unit, and I've been staying and sleeping on my uncle's couch. And I stay on my uncle's couch until like a couple months ago. So from February all the way into like June, I was sleeping on a couch. They were supposed to be helping me get an apartment and figure out all my finance stuff because my dad screwed over and did a bunch of weird sneaky things under my business. So we were trying to fix all of that. But they're also a family of 7. Like, it didn't get done in the time that it needed to be done. Also, I was like, I didn't realize like how screwed over things were until I was looking to apply for my first apartment and realized that I had no proof of income. My dad also, when was filling out my W-9 for my OnlyFans, he put it under my business LLC that he is primary ownership in. So I don't have any proof of income from all the money that I was making from 16 all the way till 20. Yeah, it's really weird. So I was really stressed about that, and I wasn't able to get a place as fast as I wanted to. And then the day that I couldn't get my apartment, something had happened, and I ended up giving my family all the money that I had had for my apartment, and I chose to stay there longer. And the plan was to like build with them. I was like, okay, like we're gonna save up and we're gonna get a house. Like we're all gonna work hard and we're gonna move out of here and we're gonna get a house somewhere and buy land. And that was the plan. And then something happened and just it blew up, and I ended up contacting one of my friends that I met when I first moved out here, who has been like a mom figure to me, and I have been living with her since June, I think. Which God bless her and her soul. Like I'm very thankful for the people that I've had in my life with her since June. And then I quit sex work because I wasn't taking care of anybody else but myself anymore. And really the only reason why I was doing sex work was, again, I guess I made an income and was able to take care of myself. But I had a lot of extra money, and I have a problem with taking care of people before me. So I was taking care of a lot of my family, was taking care of just, things, people around me. And I didn't need to do that anymore. So I was like, and I was signed to an agency that was like stressing me out. So I was like really overwhelmed. And I was like, I just don't want to do this anymore. And my friend gave me the opportunity to be able to like not do that because she's very financially well off and does not need my money. So I'm not here taking care of anybody. And so I quit sex work, and I'm giving myself until September to like get a place and get everything figured out and get all my finances in line. And if I can't, I'm gonna move back home for a little bit. And that's perfectly fine with me because I was unable to get myself a steady foundation. I wasn't really taught how to manage my money or all the things that I need to be financially responsible and take care of those things. So I'm gonna move back home in September if like I can't figure it out on my own, and my mom's gonna help me get a better foundation, and then I'll move back out here. But I'm gonna go home in like a week so my mom can like help me figure out all the stuff my dad's been doing under my business and see like how serious and weird it is. And depending on how serious and weird it is, if I can handle it on my own, hopefully like I can find a place out here and stay out in LA, because LA is my home, guys. I don't really feel like leaving. But also if I need to just go back home for like a year and just kind of get myself all situated and then move back out here, I'm so okay with doing that because I need to start prioritizing myself and my foundation so I can, you can't take care of people if you aren't taking care of yourself. And I really need to like prioritize that and get in a better habit of doing that. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's a bit confusing and stressful, but I'm learning. I'm here to learn. I'm here to do better, and I'm here to just talk. But yeah, God bless all the people in my life, and here's the journey. If you guys have any questions or specific things that I mentioned in here that you guys want me to go in deeper about, please comment that so I can know where to start. The next video is probably going to focus on me quitting sex work and why, and the truth about the sex work industry. Thank you guys for listening, and I hope you guys are doing well.